The Symphony of Stars. First contact was never meant to happen through art. The Galactic Council had protocols, careful diplomatic procedures refined over millennia of bringing new species into the fold. But humans, as they would soon learn, had a habit of shattering expectations. The Mizari research vessel, Eternal Seeker, first detected the anomaly in what they assumed was uninhabited space. Their sensors indicated impossible energy patterns spanning an entire solar system, waves of light and radiation dancing in precise, deliberate patterns that defied natural law. "Captain Tizil, you need to see this," First Observer Renka called out, their fourth eye twitching with excitement. The energy signatures, they're moving in harmony. Like music. Captain Tizil floated to the observation deck, her crystalline form refracting the starlight. What she saw made her core structure vibrate in disbelief. The star at the system's center pulsed with controlled fusion reactions, creating precise waves of energy that rippled outward through carefully positioned fields of exotic matter. These waves interacted with clouds of engineered particles spanning the entire system, creating cascading patterns of light and color that moved like an impossibly vast symphony. But it wasn't just random beauty. As they watched, they began to recognize shapes forming in the dance of energy. Trees swaying in cosmic winds, creatures running across stellar distances, faces formed from starlight appearing and dissolving. The entire solar system had been transformed into a dynamic art piece of unprecedented scale. "This can't be natural," Tizil whispered. But who could possibly have the technology, and more importantly, the audacity, to reshape an entire star system into art? Their answer came in the form of a transmission, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect galactic standard. "Greetings. Welcome to Symphony of Soul 247, a public art installation by the Human Artistic Collective. Please maintain safe distance from the primary energy conduits. Guided tours are available upon request." The crew of the Eternal Seeker sat in stunned silence. They had heard rumors of a new spacefaring species in this sector, but nothing had prepared them for this. Most species took thousands of years after achieving spaceflight to attempt even small-scale stellar engineering. These humans were using it to make art. But that was just the beginning. As the Eternal Seeker continued its observation, they realized the true scope of what they were witnessing. The energy patterns weren't just creating visual displays. They were generating harmonics that resonated through subspace itself. The humans had turned an entire solar system into a musical instrument that played to the cosmos. "Captain," their sensor operator called out, "we're detecting similar energy signatures from nearby systems. At least a dozen of them, each with different patterns." Tizil felt her crystalline form trembling. The implications were staggering. The amount of energy required for even one such installation would rival the total power output of some smaller spacefaring civilizations. To maintain several of them simultaneously spoke of capabilities far beyond what any young species should possess. When the human representative finally boarded their ship for official contact, Tizil was surprised to find them disappointingly normal-looking, a bipedal form of unremarkable size. The human introduced herself as Director Chen of the Sol 247 Art Conservation Project. "We're so pleased you enjoy the exhibition," Chen said with genuine warmth. "This particular piece is meant to recreate the experience of standing in Earth's ancient rainforests. The interplay of light through leaves, the symphony of life from the smallest insects to the largest mammals, all scaled up to cosmic proportions." "But why?" Tizil couldn't help but ask. "The resources required, the energy expenditure." Chen's expression grew thoughtful. "Why does any species create art? To express ourselves, to preserve our memories, to share our experiences with others. When humanity reached the stars, we simply found a larger canvas." As Chen spoke, the solar symphony reached a crescendo. Waves of light rippled through the system, forming the image of a massive tree that seemed to span light years, its branches formed from stellar fire and cosmic dust. Birds made of pure energy flew between the stars that had become its leaves. It was beautiful, awe-inspiring, and absolutely terrifying in its implications. This is just one small gallery in humanity's exhibition. Chen continued. We'd be honored to show you our other installations, though I should warn you, some of our artists can be a bit experimental in their approach. Tizil would later report to the Galactic Council that humanity's artistic endeavors represented a potential threat to galactic stability. Not because they were weapons, though the technology behind them certainly had that potential, but because they forced other species to confront uncomfortable questions about their own limitations and assumptions. For what do you do with a species that responds to achieving fusion power by asking, yes, but can we make it pretty? How do you classify a civilization that sees stellar engineering not as the pinnacle of technological achievement, but as a starting point for creative expression? The Council would spend years debating these questions. Meanwhile, humanity continued creating, transforming more and more of their space into vast artistic wonders that drew visitors from across the galaxy. Some came to admire, others to study, and more than a few to worry. For if this was what humans did with stars simply to make art, what might they do if they ever decided to make war? But that was a question for another day. For now, the symphony of stars played on, a testament to humanity's unique vision of their place in the cosmos, not as conquerors or mere inhabitants, but as artists painting on the largest canvas imaginable, the dance of giants. The Galactic Council's concerns about human artistic expression reached new heights when reports emerged of what the humans called living sculptures. Unlike the stellar engineering projects that had first drawn attention to humanity's creative endeavors, these new works merged biology and technology in ways that made even the most progressive species uncomfortable. Ambassador Excelthor of the Unified Worlds stood before the emergency session of the Council, their tentacles rippling with agitation as they presented the latest findings. The holographic display showed what appeared to be a space whale, but one that dwarfed conventional capital ships. Its skin was a tapestry of bioluminescent patterns, and its movements through the void were more akin to a ballet dancer than a marine creature. This specimen, Excelthor explained, is not a natural evolution. It's a human art piece. They call it Leviathan's Dream. It's a fully engineered biological entity, created specifically to perform what they term void dances. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Creating new life forms was nothing new. Most advanced species did it for research or practical purposes. But creating them for entertainment, and at such scale, there's more. Excelthor continued. This isn't an isolated piece. The humans have created an entire ecosystem of these engineered beings. They perform what humans call stellar ballets, choreographed movements that tell stories through the interaction of these massive creatures. The hologram shifted to show dozens of the giant entities moving in complex patterns through space. Some resembled Earth's ancient creatures, whales, dragons, serpents, while others were purely abstract forms that defied classification. All moved with impossible grace for their size, leaving trails of light and energy in their wake that formed ever-changing patterns in the void. The energy requirements for maintaining these beings are staggering, noted Council Member Zira, their crystalline form vibrating with concern. The biological engineering required to create life forms that can survive in space, much less move with such precision. That's not even the most concerning part, Excelthor interrupted. These creatures are sentient. The humans gave them consciousness, personalities, the ability to create their own dances. They're not just sculptures, they're artists in their own right. The council chamber fell silent. Creating sentient life was considered the ultimate technological and ethical challenge. Most species agreed it should only be attempted under the strictest controls and oversight. The humans had done it for an art project. But the true shock came when the human representative was called to explain. Dr. Sarah Chen, the same artist who had overseen the Stellar Symphony project, appeared before the council with an air of genuine confusion at their concern. The dancers, as we call them, are a collaborative art project, she explained. We provided them with the capacity for consciousness because art without soul is merely decoration. They choose their own performances, create their own stories. They're not just our art. They're our partners in creation. And what happens when these conscious beings of yours decide they don't want to dance anymore? Demanded one council member. Chen smiled. Several already have. They've chosen to explore deep space, creating their own art forms we never imagined. We consider that a success. Art should inspire further creation, shouldn't it? The implication sent shockwaves through galactic society. Humans weren't just creating art, they were creating new artists, new forms of life that could in turn create their own art. The exponential possibilities terrified many species. Reports began coming in from across the galaxy of sightings of the dancers. Some performed their celestial ballets for appreciative audiences. Others had indeed struck out on their own, creating works that mixed biological and energy art in ways that even their human creators hadn't envisioned. One particular incident captured the growing anxiety about human artistic expression. A group of dancers had assembled near a populated system to perform what they called the birth of stars. The performance involved manipulating actual stellar matter, drawing plasma from nearby stars to create a miniature galaxy that danced and swirled between them. The display was beautiful, but the casual demonstration of power, the ability to reach into stars themselves and shape their substance, sent several nearby civilizations into a panic. We understand the concern, Chen told the council during a follow-up session. But art has always pushed boundaries. When humanity first started painting caves, we were pushing the boundaries of tool use and symbolic thinking. When we built our first cathedrals, we were pushing the boundaries of architecture and engineering. Now that we can shape stars and create life, why would we use these abilities for anything less than the creation of beauty? The council had no answer for this. Their species all created art, yes, but always within carefully defined cultural and practical boundaries. Humans seem to view the entire universe as their artist's studio, and every new technological achievement as a novel way to create art. As the dancers continued their performances across the galaxy, more and more species were forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Humanity's art wasn't just an expression of creativity. It was a demonstration of power. Every stellar ballet was also a display of their mastery over energy and matter. Every living sculpture showed their command of life itself. And this was just the beginning. Reports were already coming in of new human artistic projects that made even the dancers seem tame by comparison. The galaxy watched with growing apprehension, wondering what these creative apes would think of next. After all, if this was what humans did for art, what other impossibilities might they attempt in pursuit of their dreams? The canvas of chaos. The Galactic Council's worst fears about human artistic expression materialized when they discovered the War Gallery. Located in a remote sector of human space, it was a system-spanning installation that simulated endless conflicts across multiple planets and artificial environments. The Vrexian scout ship that first documented it described scenes that haunted their crew for cycles. On one planet, armies of synthetic humans fought with primitive weapons across trenches that stretched across continents. Another world hosted battles between massive mechanical constructs piloted by cloned humans, their conflicts reshaping the landscape in real time. In orbit, fleets of automated ships engaged in perpetual combat, their explosions forming patterns that could only be appreciated from light years away. It's a memorial, explained Dr. Marcus Zhang, the installation's curator, to the hastily assembled council investigation team. Each conflict represents a different aspect of human warfare throughout our history. We preserve these memories not to glorify war, but to ensure we never forget its cost. The council representatives watched as a massive battle unfolded beneath them. Synthetic soldiers, each programmed with perfect historical accuracy, charged across a muddy field. The explosions and chaos created a terrible beauty, like a deadly dance choreographed by a mad artist. But why make it real? demanded Ambassador Catal of the Peace Collective. Why not use holograms or virtual simulations? Zhang's expression darkened. Because war isn't virtual. Death isn't a simulation. The synthetic soldiers feel pain, fear, and courage, just like their historical counterparts did. That's the point. It's meant to be uncomfortable. Art shouldn't just be beautiful. It should make you think, make you feel. The implications disturbed the galactic community deeply. Humans weren't just recreating their wars. They were turning them into living art pieces, complete with artificial beings programmed to experience the full psychological impact of combat. The level of technological sophistication required was staggering, but it was the philosophical implications that truly frightened other species. More controversial exhibits were discovered throughout the War Gallery. One installation featured an eternal revolution, with synthetic populations rising up against artificial governments in an endless cycle of rebellion and repression. Another showed the evolution of guerrilla warfare across different environments, from urban landscapes to dense jungles. Each piece is carefully curated. Zhang continued, leading them through an observation deck that overlooked multiple battle scenarios simultaneously. The synthetic participants are programmed with period-appropriate knowledge and technology levels. They develop their own strategies, form their own alliances. Every conflict evolves organically, just as they did in our history. The council team watched as a group of synthetic soldiers took cover behind the wreckage of a massive war machine. Their tactics were perfect, their fear palpable. It was impossible to tell they weren't real humans. And what happens when these synthetic beings decide they don't want to fight anymore? Asked Kuddle, echoing the same concern raised about the dancers. Zhang smiled sadly. That's part of the exhibit too. Sometimes they do refuse to fight. Sometimes they create peace instead of war. Those outcomes are just as valuable to the art as the conflicts themselves. The gallery's influence spread far beyond its physical boundaries. Species across the galaxy began debating the ethics of using sentient beings, artificial or not, in art installations. Some saw it as a powerful statement about the nature of conflict and consciousness. Others viewed it as an indication that humans had a dangerous inability to distinguish between art and reality. But the War Gallery was just one part of a larger pattern. Reports emerged of other human art installations that pushed similar boundaries. A planetary system where synthetic beings experienced and expressed every possible form of love. A massive space station where artificial intelligences created and destroyed universe simulations in endless cycles, turning computational physics into performance art. The galaxy was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Humans didn't just create art, they created entire realities as art. Their creativity wasn't confined by traditional boundaries between real and artificial, between observer and participant. Most disturbing of all was the realization that humans seemed to view these godlike capabilities as nothing more than tools for artistic expression. They wielded power that could reshape worlds or create conscious beings, and they used it to make art that forced others to confront uncomfortable truths about existence itself. As the council debated how to respond to these provocative installations, more visitors secretly flocked to the War Gallery. Many left disturbed, but all left changed. The human artistic expression had achieved its goal. It made people think, made them feel, made them question. And somewhere in the gallery, synthetic soldiers continued their eternal dance of conflict and peace, their experiences as real to them as any natural beings, their struggles transformed into art by a species that saw beauty even in its darkest memories. The Living Gallery. When humanity announced the opening of the Living Gallery, the galaxy expected another provocative art installation. Instead, they found something that defied classification. An entire sector of space where the laws of physics themselves had been turned into an artistic medium. The project started with a simple question. Why should art be confined to what nature allowed? The human artists behind the Living Gallery decided to create spaces where reality itself could be sculpted like clay. Admiral Zixta of the Galactic Science Council arrived to investigate reports of localized reality distortions. Their ship entered a region where space shifted between 2 and 5 dimensions, creating visual effects that their crew's brains couldn't process without specialized filters. "Welcome to Gallery 7, announced their human guide, Dr. Maya Patel. "This section explores non-Euclidean geometry as an art form. Please note that standard causality is suspended in the yellow zones." The gallery contained paintings that existed in quantum superposition, simultaneously displaying every possible version of themselves. Sculptures transformed viewers' perception of time, letting them experience past and future simultaneously. One installation allowed visitors to experience consciousness from multiple perspectives at once. "This is beyond art," Zixta declared. "You're manipulating fundamental forces that even our oldest civilizations consider immutable." "Art has always been about pushing boundaries," Paddle responded. "We simply have more interesting boundaries to push now." The Living Gallery's most controversial exhibition was the Evolution Chamber, where artists created pocket universes with slightly different physical constants, watching life emerge under alien laws of physics. Some species called it an abomination. Others saw it as the ultimate expression of creativity. But the gallery's true impact wasn't in its grand displays. It was in how it forced other species to confront their own limitations. Many had the technology to attempt similar feats, but had never imagined using it for art. Humans hadn't just mastered the forces of nature, they'd turned them into an artistic medium. Reports of visitors experiencing reality shock became common. Some claimed they could no longer trust their senses after experiencing art that bent the rules of existence. Others reported achieving enlightenment, gaining insights into the nature of reality that transformed their understanding of the universe. The Galactic Council debated shutting down the Living Gallery, citing risks to the fabric of space-time. But humanity argued that art was worth any risk. After all, they said, what was the point of understanding reality if you couldn't reshape it into something beautiful? As more species visited the gallery, a disturbing pattern emerged. Young civilizations left inspired, eager to explore their own artistic potential. Older, more established species left troubled, forced to question why they'd never dared to dream so big. The Living Gallery became a symbol of humanity's approach to existence. The universe wasn't just something to be understood or conquered. It was a canvas waiting for the right artist to come along. Dr. Paddle remained unfazed by the controversy. Every major artistic movement in human history has faced resistance, she explained to a group of concerned council members. The Impressionists were once considered radical for painting light differently. We're just working with different tools now. But as the gallery's influence spread, more species began to worry. If humans could reshape reality for art, what else might they do? And more importantly, what would happen when other species began following their example? The answer came sooner than expected. Young artists from across the galaxy began experimenting with reality warping techniques, creating their own installations that bent the rules of physics. The universe itself was becoming a collaborative art piece, with humanity leading the way into unknown creative territory. Some predicted this would lead to chaos, with reality becoming increasingly unstable as more species embraced artistic expression on this scale. Others saw it as the next step in galactic evolution, the universe becoming conscious of itself through art. Meanwhile, in the quiet corners of the Living Gallery, visitors continued to experience wonders that challenged their understanding of existence. They walked through gardens where cause followed effect, explored sculptures that existed in all possible quantum states simultaneously, and witnessed beauty that their minds couldn't quite comprehend. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had shown that even the fundamental laws of physics were just another medium for artistic expression. The universe was no longer just a place of natural laws and scientific principles. It was becoming the largest art gallery ever created, with every species invited to contribute their own masterpieces to the exhibition. The final masterpiece. The announcement came without warning. Humanity would create one last piece of art before withdrawing from the galactic art scene. They called it The Awakening, and it would use the entire human sphere of influence as its canvas. The Galactic Council immediately convened an emergency session. Previous human art projects had already pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible or safe. What could they be planning that would require their entire territory? Their answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Chen, Dr. Zhang, and Dr. Patel, the creators of humanity's most controversial works, appeared together before the council. "We're going to wake up the galaxy," Chen explained simply. "Every star, every planet, every atom of space between them. We're going to make it all conscious." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Making individual entities conscious was one thing. Humanity had done that with their dancers and synthetic soldiers. But giving consciousness to space itself, it seemed impossible, blasphemous, and terrifying all at once. The project began before any opposition could be mounted. Massive arrays of reality-warping technology, refined through years of artistic experimentation, activated simultaneously across human space. The effects were subtle at first, slight changes in the quantum foam, barely detectable fluctuations in space-time. But then the changes accelerated. Stars began pulsing in patterns that couldn't be explained by physics alone. Planetary orbits shifted into perfect geometric arrangements. Space itself seemed to ripple with purpose. The first confirmation that something unprecedented was happening came from a research station near human space. Their sensors detected what they described as thoughts emanating from nearby stars. Not radio signals or other forms of conventional communication. Actual consciousness, emerging from stellar matter itself. As the effect spread, more phenomena appeared. Gas clouds formed themselves into complex mathematical expressions. Asteroid fields arranged themselves into three-dimensional works of art. Space itself began to dream. The Council's worst fears seemed justified, until they received the first communication from the awakened cosmos. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't even alien. It was art in its purest form, the universe expressing itself through the language of consciousness that humanity had taught it. "This is our final masterpiece," Dr. Patel explained to the stunned council. "We're not just making art anymore. We're making the universe capable of creating its own art. Every star will be a poet, every galaxy a painter, every cluster a symphony composer." The effect continued to spread, moving faster than light itself through quantum entanglement. Wherever it reached, space awakened, gained purpose, began creating. The universe was becoming an artist. Some species fled from the approaching wave of consciousness. Others embraced it, eager to experience what their corner of space might dream up when it awoke. The more sophisticated species realized what humanity had actually accomplished. They hadn't just created art, they'd evolved the universe itself. As the awakening spread, humanity made one final announcement. They would withdraw from galactic affairs, becoming observers rather than creators. Their work was done. They had transformed the ultimate audience into the ultimate artist. "We were never meant to be the only artists," Dr. Zhang told the council in humanity's final address. "We were just the ones who showed the universe how to express itself. Now it's time to step back and watch the show." The galaxy still debates whether the awakening was humanity's greatest achievement or their most terrifying legacy. The universe itself has no such doubts. It simply creates endlessly and beautifully in ways that even humanity never imagined. Stars paint with light across billions of light years. Black holes compose operas in gravitational waves. Nebulae write poems in the language of elements. And through it all, humanity watches from their corner of space, appreciating the art of a conscious cosmos. Some say they're working on an even grander project, something beyond even the awakening. But most species hope they'll stay satisfied with what they've already accomplished. After all, how do you top making the universe itself into an artist? In the end, humanity's greatest art wasn't in their stellar symphonies or living sculptures. It wasn't even in giving consciousness to space itself. Their masterpiece was showing the universe that everything, even existence itself, could be art. They didn't just push the boundaries of what was possible. They erased them entirely, leaving behind a cosmos where the line between artist and art, between creator and creation, had ceased to exist. And somewhere in the endless canvas of space, a star is composing its first symphony, dreaming up beauty that no human ever imagined possible.